All right, what's up, y'all? Just getting things cleared up before we jump in and get on it. Give me a sippy sip. Got my water. This is just water. Got my little water bottle. Shout out to John Goodman of the Online Trainer Academy. He's also a huge Star Wars fan. He knew all about me because he says sometimes he watches my Star Wars channel. And actually, how I got interested in John helping me with my personal training business is because I was reading one of his books in 2013 after my grandma passed, and he was like, you should inject your personality into your personal training business. And he was like if you were a Star Wars fan and people fill out your application, you could put something at the bottom like do or do not. There is no try. And I was like, I'm sold. Right? I wasn't even doing this back then. I'm gonna talk about some online personal training stuff later. I'm just kind of getting warmed up before I jump in. This is gonna be the off the dome show. I'm gonna do this thing weekly. This is gonna be a podcast, so it's gonna be live stream. The episodes I'll record live, and when I can, and then I'm gonna strip the audio and put this on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever I can get it posted. Once I figure out how to do that, and I'm not gonna sit and wait like my bro Roberto Blake says to get like 5 episodes recorded and then start your podcast. If I do that, it's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna probably tomorrow sit down, strip the audio, get it posted somewhere, and then get it posted somewhere on iTunes. But all this stuff I'm gonna cut out. I'm getting warmed up, so y'all are seeing the warm ups while I wait on people to trickle in. I know I haven't been all that active. It's not, something's going on with my stream health or something. I don't know. So we'll see. I'm kind of worried about that because if YouTube messes up, then that like kills my recording later. But we'll see how, if hopefully things get going smoothly. I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm recording from my laptop that I haven't used at all in several months, so it's been acting weird. All right, but I'm gonna jump in and get started. Yeah, I know. What's up, Chris? I have an Anchor thing, but you say you've been experimenting. I was messing with Restream.io yesterday. Um, I have a Twitch channel where I've been streaming City of Heroes, which I'm not gonna say how it's back, but I did use Restream to stream to a gaming channel, Hero Culture, and also on Twitch. But I don't know, like on Twitch they'll play music while they're playing the game, and it's like I can't do that if I'm on YouTube. I get slapped with like a copyright something. So that's what's up, Davlin. Haven't seen you in a minute, man. How's things in Arkansas? Hey, Davlin is the first person to see, well, he's like the second person to subscribe to this channel. He followed me. He knows when the whole urban acolyte thing started because I started like on my old channel, Golden Bell Training, where it was like a fitness meditation like crazy combination channel, and I started like introducing in the introduction, I would say, "What's up, Urban Acolytes?" And it's actually Sean Cruxton of the Underground Wellness Show. He was like, "Dude, you should just stick with Urban Acolyte. Like Golden Bell, I don't know what that is, but I like that thing, Urban Acolyte. Just make the channel Urban Acolyte." So I blew away my other channel where I was getting close to 1,000 subscribers and started over with Urban Acolyte, and it was still not Star Wars. It was like fitness and meditation and religion, and you never knew what I was going to talk about in the next video. And it was Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown's the reason I like started doing Star Wars videos, because I would give some example from some meditation thing, and I'd say, yeah, this is like on this is kind of like in Empire Strikes Back when Luke went into the cave on Dagobah And Gordon is like, dude, I've never seen Star Wars. When Star Wars came out, I was running around India learning all this crazy, well, not crazy because I think it's cool, this crazy wild meditation stuff with these gurus in India, when your mother was in high school. And he spent like all his time in India, like learning under these gurus, which is kind of, I'd be real, that's kind of something. I don't necessarily want to go to India, but I kind of like to do that too. I would go to Bodh Gaya. Like there's some people that teach some real stuff. But anyway, I'm getting warmed up. I'm gonna cut this out of the actual podcast. Let's get started. All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. This is the first episode of Star Wars Off the Dome, the Star Wars Off the Dome show. Shout out to Sean Cannell for inspiring me to do this. So who am I? Well, I just gave you guys my name, and if you're watching the live stream, watching me on YouTube, or you're listening to the first show, then you probably already know me from YouTube. I cover Star Wars, but it's Star Wars with a twist because my focus is on the hero's journey, right? Joseph Campbell, right? When George Lucas started Star Wars, he wanted to create a modern myth. Now, at first he wanted to do Flash Gordon, and he couldn't. So he was like, well, I guess I got to make my own sci-fi, fantasy, coming-of-age story, a modern myth for this new generation. And just to kind of piggyback on that, that's essentially what Star Wars is trying to do now. Everybody's talking, oh, well, the old Star Wars didn't do this, the old Star Wars didn't do that, they didn't get into politics. And it's like, but you're talking about a galactic rebellion. You're talking about rebelling against the Empire, rebelling against tyranny. Now, George Lucas may not have gotten deep into the politics in the original saga, but the prequels were all about politics. You had Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious making this fake war, and he's playing both sides. He's controlling both sides of the game. It's like you're a pawn in the game of chess, but the person that's moving the pieces is the same person, right? It's like, let me change my mask. Okay, let me put on my hood, right? But it's the same person, and everybody's being affected by this game. But in the end, who wins? Well, if it's the same person moving both pieces, it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. They win, unless like somebody comes and breaks the table and flips the board over and throws out all the pieces, right? You have to disrupt the game completely, right? And that's essentially what we're kind of seeing now, except. Is somebody playing both sides? Not necessarily. They're still dealing with the aftermath of what Palpatine did, right? But that's I'm gonna get into the original saga and the new saga, the sequel trilogy later on. We're talking about the Old Republic and Count Dooku and everything else. And so you'll have to stick around. Those of you who just came to talk about the rise of Skywalker, you got to stick around or jump to the end when this gets recorded. But y'all live, you just got to hang out with me. Anyway, so why do I do this? Well, I feel like there are lessons that we can extract from Star Wars. I mean, we can have fun and geek out and talk about lightsaber fighting styles and all that other stuff. It's not really my thing, right? I talk about training like a Jedi. I'm not really trying to train like a Jedi. I'm putting that in quotes for you guys listening to the audio version because you can't see me, right? Unless you hop on the live stream for a future episode, right? I'm doing my own training, and for me, that's somebody said, hey man, it's almost like you're training to be a Jedi. I didn't get up one day and say, I'm going to train to be a Jedi. No, I do my own training, and in my mind, I'm doing Jedi stuff, right? Some of you guys know that I have a ninjutsu. I just lost my words. I have a ninjutsu background in addition to the Chinese martial arts. Now, the ninjutsu side, the Hoshin side, I don't train it that hard. Really, I just do the meditation that they do. That's some training I have. So I'm not, if you ask, what's your belt in your ninja? I don't have a belt because I've been to a couple of seminars, had a few lessons, but my big thing is like, I got their meditation. That's really my lineage, as far as Dr. Glenn Morris and the Hoshin Tao. like Kundalini ninja stuff. But when I was with Rob Williams, Soke Rob Williams, who is the grandmaster, the current grandmaster, Glenn's successor, right? He was like, look, I love doing this stuff because I feel like, you know, when I put on my gi and my belt and I have my sword and I'm doing drills and I'm teaching, and when I come to these seminars, these workshops, it's like I got a bunch of Jedi around me and we're doing Jedi stuff. And I was like, he's got it. He doesn't know me at all. This is our first time meeting, but he's got it. And that's what I really want to do. I set out to inspire people. Now, if you want to do what I do, well, hey, I got a whole fitness thing and I'm starting all this teaching and everything else. So you can do what I do, right? And hire me, or you can hire me to give you the foundation to help you get started along. Oh, man. I don't know what's going on with this computer, man. All right, am I back up? Am I back up? All right, it looks like we had some technical difficulties or something. I don't really know what's going on my internet today. I've been streaming City of Heroes like all weekend, so all of a sudden, now that I want to do some real work on my Star Wars channel, now all of a sudden I'm having issues. But anyway, like I was saying, the whole reason that I do this is I want to inspire people to take up meditation, train the body, train the mind. That's what this guy Costa Dineos, he's really who got me started on this path. He wrote a couple of books about Chinese martial arts, Chinese Neigong, and his teacher. And when he wrote the books, he was like, yo, man, it's almost like I'm telling the world that you can be like a Jedi. It was like when he got to one point, he was like, I wonder if George Lucas got exposed to some of this stuff that my teacher's doing, that I'm learning, that I'm studying, this gray area where martial arts crosses over into mysticism and spirituality and spiritual practices, right? And what he's doing now, he's like, look, man, I teach people I start them out with he's kind of rebirthed this martial arts tradition that came from his village in Greece, that had kind of been forgotten. He found pictures of his grandfather in that generation where they were studying some form of martial arts, not Chinese. It originated there in Greece. Looking through old pictures, his grandfather tried to teach him, but he was young and knew everything, like we always do. We know it all. And he was like, I'm not trying to hear that, man. I'm doing this Japanese stuff. I'm doing the Bujinkan. I'm studying at Chin Village, at Chinjiago from Chinjiawang, right? I'm not really trying to hear what you're saying, Grandpa. And then later, he's like, oh, there was something here. So he's recreating that. And it's also mixed in with everything that he just experienced. You know, I think Costa's probably if he's not in his 60s, he's close. I know he's around my mom's age. I think my mom is 60 now. Wow. But anyway, so he said, look, I teach you how to train the body, and then we train the mind and the emotions. And then if you want to go a step further, then we can get into the spiritual side. But you got to start with the body, then this mind, right? Wherever mind is, whatever that is. And then once you do that, you go the next step further, right? And I was like, yo, that's it. That's what I'm trying to inspire people to do. Train the bind. Yeah, that's what you do. Train the body and the mind. And then you can start talking about the force and all that other stuff. Once you have rooted yourself, right? Once you've made yourself healthy physically and mentally, then you can go the next step forward. So that's why I do all of this. I want to give a shout out real quick to some people who have already taken that first step towards training the body. Back in the when spring started, I was telling you guys about this Hammer of Thor program. It was a kettlebell program that I wanted to kind of have some test subjects, and they were also helping me as far as delivering personal physical training fitness programs online. So shout out to these guys who have completed 12 weeks of the Hammer of Thor program. I told you guys it was going to be 6 weeks. I gave them an additional 6 weeks for free, right? I didn't charge them for that. So you guys who didn't do it, you really missed out. So shout out to Eric Elemen and Rodney Brown. They have completed 12 weeks. I'm hoping to hear about their progress really soon. I'm going to be reaching out to them. Michael DiPasquale, he is on his last week, and so is Theodore Theo, I don't know how to say your last name. And I was just talking about Kostas and Greek and stuff. It's Edtimiades. Theo's on his last week. And then Hassan, my man Hassan, is a law school student, Army vet. He's coming up on, he starts phase 3, so he's got a month left, 4 more weeks, and he will be completed. These guys are the first ones to go through the Hammer of Thor program, and I'm telling you guys here, they're going to be the last. I'm not going to run the Hammer of Thor program anymore. If somebody up, Prince, I really want to do it. Part of the reason is because I looked at the program and just the way I approach things now, I kind of feel like this doesn't train everything that I would like for people to train. I don't want to get into too much more details, but if somebody's like, Prince, I'm really interested in like Thor training or something like that, putting on some muscle. Do you have I can create another program like this. It doesn't necessarily have to be kettlebells. That was another thing. A lot of people couldn't do the program because they didn't have access to kettlebells or heavy kettlebells. And I know a lot of you who follow my fitness stuff, in your mind, I'm a kettlebell guy. I've been training with kettlebells for the last 11 years now. It's 11 years. I started in 2008 when I got out of the Navy. I knew about kettlebells 12 or 13 years because I saw the EOD guys using them on my ship, USS Ronald Reagan. I didn't know what they were for. I got introduced to them when I started studying Southern Praying Mantis after I came back home, and my teacher had some. I asked him how to use them. He sent me to Iron Tamer Dave Whitley, who's also a Southern Praying Mantis instructor here in Nashville. He's also, I mentioned the Hoshin Tao thing, the ninjutsu thing. He's an instructor in the Hoshin Budo, right? So, and he's a huge Star Wars fan. And when we talk about being inspired by all of the hero stuff, Iron Tamer Dave Whitley, look him up later. If you don't know who he is, if you're not into kettlebells, you might not know who he is. He's a strong man. If you watch like Marvel's little show, like Real Life Superheroes, there was the strong man, Dennis Rogers, who was like ripping telephone books in half and bending wrenches and stuff. No one had ever done it. And all these feats of strength. Dennis is also one of Dave's teachers. So Dave does all these old time strongman things, taking frying pans and rolling them up like a piece of newspaper and bending nails and just all kinds of crazy stuff. And he got into that because he wanted to be the Incredible Hulk, right? After I saw Endgame, he was like, please tell me about Professor Hulk. Was he awesome? I don't care about spoilers, but I want to know about the Hulk because my feelings were hurt when the Hulk got throat punched by Thanos in Infinity War. Prince, give me the 411 on Endgame. This dude loves the Hulk, and his love for the Hulk. Now he's got a business, personal training business. He's been one of the top kettlebell instructors in the RKC and then in the SFG under Pavel Satselin for years. And he's an old time strong man. Look, man, when I tell you guys that if you love Star Wars, if you like whatever they did with Luke Skywalker, what impact does that have on your life? It ruined my childhood. Okay, and I said, get up, get out and do something, and people got mad at me. But look, man, I'm telling you, this dude, Dave, who taught me a whole lot of stuff, kettlebells, right? And anybody who I've taught kettlebells, it's like, you're part of that lineage. You're part of, what did Luke say in the teaser, right? For 1,000 years, 1,000 years is in you now, Ray, right? People that came way before you, right? The mighty Adam, right? Dave is part of that lineage, right? The mighty Adam, this little Jewish dude, he got shot in the head with a bullet, confronting some Nazis in America. The bullet didn't break the skin, and then he beat them up, right? The mighty Adam, a real life superhero, right? Who was he inspired by? Maybe Samson. Maybe he was like, well, I want to be like Samson because he's Jewish. And Samson's in the Bible. And we got a real Samson. DC, Superman, Kal-El, right? Kal-El is actually, that word is actually, there's a Hebrew word. I think it means another god or something. I had translated it a long time ago when I was in seminary. My Hebrew's not so good now, right? But Kal-El is, that word appears in the Bible, right? El, the house of El, right? The Canaanite sky deity, El. You have El, the house of El. They fly through the sky, right? Get their powers from the sun, right? It's all there, man. So, I mean, you got the real life Superman, the mighty Adam, Dennis, Dave. And I don't do strongman stuff, but I've got part of that lineage and I'm passing it on to you guys, right? So, all this crazy geek stuff, it can inspire you to change your life. It really happens, man. That's what I'm really trying to do. I'm like way off. I'm all over the place. I'm excited now. I think my coffee's kicking in. Before we really get into the Knights of the Old Republic stuff and all of that, what most of you are here for. I also want to give a shout out to some of the patrons. Hey, man, the patrons are the reason that this show is happening, right? I've had patrons for a couple of years now, and I've been neglecting them. I'm like, I'm gonna do a Star Wars podcast. I'm gonna do a Star Wars podcast. I'm gonna do a Star Wars podcast. And they've been supporting me every month. And somebody made a huge donation on Patreon, and I was like, oh shoot, man. Because I forgot about Patreon. I was like, oh shoot, man. I gotta start doing this podcast, man, because they've been paying for it and I haven't been doing it. So shout out to the big brother Mike Mahler. Mike and Sincere were they kept talking about doing stuff and saying, look, if you're inspired to do this, at some point you just gotta do it. They started their Live Life Aggressively podcast, which ended in the spring. They did their final episode like 200 and something, and it's over. They were like, we don't have anything else left to say. But Mike's been supporting me on Patreon. He's being a big supporter of the YouTube channel. If you go back and listen to their podcast, I was getting shout outs like every other show. I've been on their show, so that was cool. I appreciate them. They've been a big part in my personal development since about 2010. So that's awesome. Dwight Lowery, Celine Lloyd, Lee Bedar, and Mike Bercheny. Appreciate y'all. There's more patrons than that, but I don't want to go all the way down the list because I need to get into the actual meat of the show, of at least the topic I've got up. All right, so let's get going on this. Let's talk some Knights of the Old Republic. So you guys have probably heard there is news that there is a Knights of the Old Republic movie in the works. KOTOR, the thing that people have been begging for, crying out for. Did you hear that? Did you sense it? It was the sound of millions and millions of Star Wars fans screaming in, I don't know, in ecstasy. An ecstatic joy went out around the fandom, and hopefully it's not quickly silenced. I'm gonna weigh in my thoughts on it, but first let me give you the news. So, Buzzfeed News reports that Laeta Kalogridis is writing a Knights of the Old Republic screenplay. Now, the news is from, I think, at least 3 sources, although there's not been an official word from Lucasfilm, is that she is nearly completed on the screenplay for a potential Knights of the Old Republic trilogy. A trilogy. That's 3 movies, y'all. So Laeta worked on Avatar, Shutter Island, and a whole lot of other stuff. She worked on Altered Carbon, the Netflix show that's coming back. They did 1 season. It was awesome, with the dude who was in Suicide Squad and a whole lot of other stuff. Anthony Mackie is going to be the face, the shell of the character in season 2 as his story continues. So Anthony Mackie is like Altered Carbon, and he's going to be freaking Sam Wilson, Captain America, in the Sam and Bucky series, as he was handed the shield in Endgame. I think I'm allowed to talk spoilers for Endgame now. So he's gonna be a busy man. He's gonna be like the lead hero in a couple of things now. That's awesome, right? I remember him from 8 Mile. What's up, Lauren? Um, Kathleen Kennedy during Star Wars Celebration weekend, the most recent one back in what was that, April? She made comments to MTV News about looking into developing stories set in the Old Republic. I'm in a Old Republic Facebook group, and I thought it was people who were playing Star Wars Old Republic, the MMO game that continues the story from Knights of the Old Republic. And I think I did a video on that. Like, don't. This is why that's like Knights of the Old Republic is coming, but this is why you shouldn't get excited. And what I said was, look, man, like I thought these people were fans of the Old Republic, like the MMO, like they were playing it, and no, they're just fans of the Old Republic. And people have taken this to mean that we're going to get Revan and Bastila and the Bioware story on screen. It's going to be a screen adaptation of the story in the game. And if that happens, great. I hope they can do a good job. But for years, I've been telling you guys, I don't want that to happen. One, there's a whole lot, like, it's like, oh, this would be a great thing for the fandom. And what have I always told you guys? Yes, there's the Star Wars fandom. But within that fandom, you have like these sub niches, these sub communities. You got people who never heard of the Old Republic, like outside of mentions of the Old Republic in the movies, right? If I had never played Knights of the Old Republic and you started talking to me about the Revan and Bastila and Darth Malak and Emperor Vitiate, I would be looking at you like, huh? Because like I know after the games, there were all these comic books and novels and stories about the Old Republic, tales from the Old Republic, all of this stuff, right? But for me, Star Wars was only the movies that George Lucas worked on. That's why, like, I make fun of Legends. I'm like, yeah, Legends is trash. People get me, oh, what do you mean, man? You're not a true Star Wars fan. What is a true Star Wars fan, right? That's like the no true Scotsman fallacy, right? We should change it to the no true Star Wars fan fallacy, right? I try not to say no true Star Wars fan thinks that Rey is a Mary Sue, because I mean, I had a dude come, he wanted to buy my house, and we had a long conversation about the whole Mary Sue thing, and he hated The Last Jedi, Luke in The Last Jedi, and I mean, he stood in my living room and said, you know, Luke was a pussy in the movie, and I couldn't stand it. And I was like, bro, and I had like the Tao Te Ching sitting on the coffee table, and I was like, I pointed to it, I was like, bro, you probably should spend some time with that book. You know, I live in the Bible Belt in Tennessee, the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, so he's probably like, yeah, I went and looked at this guy's house. He was like talking about Taoism and Buddhism and stuff. And, you know, he was nice while I was here, but he probably left like, that dude is crazy. Yeah, I'm not listening to him. But, you know, it was like we had an exchange, and I was like, I kind of shut him down because I was like, wait, you're not going to stand in my house and blaspheme this movie. But I didn't say you're not a true Star Wars fan if you disagree with me. We see what we see, and we think what we think based on our past, our habits, our past experiences, right? That's the only way we can know something. If somebody's never been exposed to all of the stuff that I've been exposed to, how can I expect them to understand and see things from my point of view, right? We're all right from a certain point of view, right? But from a certain point of view, doing the Bioware story on screen is not a good idea. And I'm telling you, because if it's not, there are people who, oh yes, we're getting Revan and Bastila, and if they don't exactly get that, they're gonna be mad. If it's not exactly, if you literally don't, there's some people, man, I hear the ice cream man outside. If they literally don't take this Bioware game the way they played it, right, the way they played it with the choices that they made, and put that on the screen, they're going to be upset. And like I said, we got a new generation of Star Wars fans. I always use this example. Baby Wade and cousin De'Ara, my cousin DJ's kids, they weren't even alive when Knights of the Old Republic came out. I'm trying to think. De'Ara, I think she was born right around the time the Sith Lords came out, so the sequel. But she hadn't played those games. She doesn't know anything about Revan and Bastila. And then my cousin DJ, he's old with young kids. Like he's about 65, or getting close to it. He wasn't playing those games. He was running a business. He's a huge Star Wars fan. When we get on the phone, we'll have some deep. Hey man, there's some videos that I could have done that would get real deep on based on conversations I had with DJ, and I've just never sat down to do them. Right? He wanted me to do a video on what made Anakin worthy of redemption to become a Force ghost, because he was like, that's like Jedi heaven or something, right? To become immortal. What did Anakin do that warranted him becoming? And I gave him the simple answer, but he was like, I think you should explore that though. Like, look at everything that Anakin did as Vader, and what, yeah, he was redeemed, but what made him worthy of redemption to become, a Force ghost, right? We have some really deep conversations. We get into that, right? But the whole point is that some people have never heard of this stuff. So when you say this is the best thing that could happen, from your point of view, it is. But if I call up DJ right now, hey, cuz they're gonna do another Star Wars trilogy about the old Knights of the Old Republic. The who? Yeah, well, it's Darth Revan and Darth Malak and Bastila and the Mandalorian Wars and all Jedi Mandalorian Wars. The what? What are you talking about? Was that in any of the movies? No, cuz it was a video game that's not canon. Man, I don't know anything about that. But I'm gonna tell you guys, like, because I'm getting more into this, and maybe you're listening. You have no, like, okay, this is a video game. So the background on all of this is that Knights of the Old Republic, it was a role-playing game, a computer game about the Jedi against the Sith that was set 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. So 4,000 years before all of the Skywalker saga stuff that we see in the movies, right? Now, a big problem with that is, like, all the technology in the game looked because it was inspired by the prequels. So a whole lot of it in Knights of the Old Republic, stuff in Star Wars Old Republic, the MMO, it looks a lot like stuff from the prequels, right? So, and Pablo Hidalgo pointed that out. So it was like, well, you can't have it looking like that. It's gotta look kind of old, right? It's got to look different. So that's one area where we've got to differentiate. Things can't look the same, right? Now, this game was really about a conflict that started between Darth Revan and Darth Malak. Now it has, because I know the full story. Yeah, you don't have to play the game to understand the story, but the story is very complex. And I see a lot of people who talk about, I had this conversation with Vincent Vendetta when he was talking about the Reylo stuff, and it's like he mentioned Revan and Bastila, and it's like, dude, you don't actually know the story with Revan and Bastila, right? And I'm saying you don't have to play the game to understand the story, but there's people who played the game and still don't understand the story, right? But I'm sorry, Reylo fans, but Revan and Bastila is not the same thing as Reylo. It's not. Right? Because in there, you have Rey. You would have Rey turn into the dark side, Kylo Ren turn into the light side, so they flip, and then and basically the romance is that you have the opportunity to kill Bastila because she's become Darth Malak's apprentice, although she sacrificed herself for the good of the galaxy, right? And Jennifer Hale's wonderful voice acting voice. At the point when you have the big reveal that, okay, so I guess I need to just kind of briefly tell you guys about the game. So the game, you start out as this mysterious soldier. This soldier, you're nobody, you're no one. You're swept up in this conflict, right? You get attacked by Darth Malak's forces, right? You crash land on this planet Terrace. They had to use Terrace they created because they couldn't use Coruscant because of what ends up happening to Terrace. And Terrace has been made canon. The black lady in Rogue One, the delegate, when Jyn Erso is meeting and she's talking about, well, we got to go to this planet and because my father's plans to the Death Star are there. If we can download the plans to the Death Star and get them to the fleet, we can destroy the super weapon. There's a flaw in it, but to know where the flaw is, we need the schematics. We got to go here. We got to launch a surprise attack. And then all the senators are like, I don't know about this, man. We've never won in open conflict with the Empire. And the lady that with the crazy necklace, the black chick, she's from Terrace, right? So Terrace is now a canon planet. On top of that, Chuck Wendig in the first Aftermath book, I think they were on Terrace there. That's where the Acolytes of the Beyond first turned up, believing that they had Darth Vader's lightsaber. And they were like, they sounded like they were going to destroy it or burn it or return it to the Master, talking about Vader, right? So Terrace has been mentioned twice in the expanded GL, the expanded George Lucas canon. So Terrace is officially a canon planet now. And I think during Rogue One, I kept saying, man, what if like the orbital bombardment of Terrace really happened? And the reason that this delegate from Terrace is afraid of open war with the Empire is because, look, this is what happened to our planet back in the day, and we never forgot. We never forgot what happened when the Sith Empire, or at least not it wasn't really the Sith Empire, but it kind of was. I told y'all, man, it's a deep, complex story of what went on in Knights of the Old Republic, and you get all of it if you continue on to play Star Wars Old Republic, the MMO game, right? But I mean, it's really there's a lot to it. I mean, they could make a whole lot of movies just dealing with all of the political stuff and the wars going on if they did do this story. But a canon version, right? We got the Jedi Mandalorian War. Kanan Jarrus mentioned that in Star Wars Rebels. Did Revan lead that? Because this is where everything started. So Revan and Malak were friends. They were Padawan, kind of like Dooku and Cypher Dyas, which I'm going to talk about later, right? They were homeboys growing up as Padawan on the Jedi Temple. Were they on Coruscant? Were they on Ossus? Because that's something else we learned in canon, that the old Jedi Temple was on Ossus, based on what Count Dooku said. He wasn't quite Count yet. Was it? They were under the impression the first Jedi Temple was on Ossus. Now we learned that the first Jedi Temple is on Ahch-To. So we've got a story about that. Why did the Jedi not know about Ahch-To, right? Why did they think the first Jedi Temple was on Ossus? Or maybe that was the first Jedi Academy. I don't want to say Jedi Academy. The first teaching temple, right? Because the Jedi Academy, that's EU stuff. That's the Jedi Praxis and all that stuff that with Luke Skywalker, the Luke Skywalker we didn't get, right? But what I'm saying is why it appears that Ahch-To was something that not a lot of people knew about. Like Yoda is the Grandmaster of the Jedi. He probably knew about it. He read the ancient Jedi text. Maybe he went there. It seems like this was something that was kind of a secret, right? So anyway, my point is that there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of places that can be explored. There's a lot of wiggle room. There's things that we might see, but I would say you're not going to see all of it. You're not going to get an on-screen adaptation of this video game. It's just not going to happen, right? Don't get your hopes up. You might not even get Revan. And I'm saying, like, you have to accept that. You're getting the Old Republic, and actually, I don't care how anybody takes this. What they're doing with the canon is better than Legends, right? When I get to Dooku, the reason that the stuff behind Dooku going to the dark side is better than what was in Legends. I've been seeing this article float around that was like, how the EU saved the Phantom Menace. I'm like, well, I didn't follow any of the EU stuff about the Phantom Menace. How about we look at give Lucasfilm time to rein everything in and to bring people in and let them create, because there are more people. I saw this on Collider Movie Talk, that Lucasfilm brought in a diverse, because Trisha Barr, the fangirls going rogue, some of these vocal feminists in the Star Wars fandom have been very vocal about like the lack of diversity. Everybody working on Star Wars is white men, right? Dave and Dan, Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, right? It was Colin Trevorrow, right? And they're upset about how, Daenerys got portrayed in Game of Thrones, and they're like, oh man, this is not a good sign for women in whatever project they're working on. Look at what they did in Game of Thrones. There wasn't any diversity. And it's kind of like, well, they were working with what George R.R. Martin gave them. And if he said, this is where I'm going with this character, and they don't really have much other than, because he hadn't finished the final books, they're like, look, we got this many shows, we got to do it this way, and that's it, right? How much of it is on them, and how much is it on, they're handed somebody else's material and just told to adapt this for the screen, and to work within whatever constraints HBO sets for them. You got 10 shows to do this. You got 6 shows to do this. You got 8 shows to do this, right? So I don't want to pass judgment on Dave and Dan right now. And I mean, I didn't have an issue with Game of Thrones because I watched all of them, but I wasn't that invested in it. I was just like, oh man, this is the story. This is where they're going. I'm not invested in these characters, and I'm not trying to see myself through them or use them as some kind of to promote whatever message or agenda I have. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is look at what happens with these characters and decide for yourself what lessons you can learn from them, right? With Daenerys, I would say Daenerys is a whole lot like Maul. She never forgot. She never forgot what, she never got over, I'm getting revenge for this thing that happened way back when, and it drove her mad, right? And then we didn't see that process. It was more like she got isolated and just said F it and burned everything down. Could that happen in Star Wars? I don't know. Right now, the only character I could see doing something like that is Kylo Ren, right? He could devolve into madness. I've always thought he's had mental issues. We'll have to wait and see, right? And all of this stuff, it raises a question like, what are Dave and Dan, what's the Benioff and Weiss trilogy going to be about? Now, the current word on the street is that, well, first off, we had news that their trilogy is going to start in, because I think Disney announced 3 films in like 2022, 2024, and 2026. And it would be the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. So then people started, well, Rian Johnson's trilogy is not happening because we haven't heard anything about it. Maybe Ryan is working on, and he is working on a movie right now with Chris Evans and James Bond. Actually, I think they're finished filming, right? But he's working on that. He's working on other stuff. He's probably writing on the Star Wars project, but I don't think he's even started. So, he's getting fired. We haven't heard any news. Hey man, don't let some of these people, because somebody started getting all in my comments on YouTube and whatnot, and Prince, I'm gonna laugh at you. I was like, well, if you're gonna laugh at me because it doesn't happen, you're wasting your time. What's the point of laughing at me, right? It's not going to affect me at all if it doesn't happen. It'd be one less thing that I have to talk about. But maybe I decide I don't want to talk about Star Wars anymore by that time anyway. I mean, that's a possibility, right? I might not be alive. I mean, no, tomorrow's not promised to anyone, right? That's the way I look at life. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna be doing tomorrow. I might not make it through this podcast. I mean, that's kind of morbid, but I'm trying to be more focused on the present moment, not thinking about the future so much, because the tables can get flipped upside down at any moment, right? And I just think about that. I mean, I had some surprises these last few weeks, some things that shocked me. So, now I'm kind of looking at, hey man, I'm just trying to make it through this moment, the next moment, and the next moment. So, just because you haven't heard any news about what's going on with Ryan's trilogy doesn't mean it's not happening. The current word on the street is that Dave and Dan's trilogy and Rian Johnson's trilogy are going to be related. It's essentially going to be 6 movies that are telling one big story, right? Now, Rian Johnson said his trilogy is not going to have anything to do with the Skywalker saga. It's going to be in a new part of space that's never been explored, nothing. And, I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Rian Johnson's an idiot, this and that, because I saw somebody say that in the comments. Rian Johnson might know more about Star Wars than you do, than I do, than any of them, except for maybe Alex. and Molly, because Alex knows everything about Star Wars apparently. When it comes to Star Wars trivia, I mean, he put that power that Luke Skywalker had, and I have the Jedi Padawan handbook or whatever, and I didn't even recognize. I was like, whoa, I told you guys that's a exomatosis from this Christian mystic that I've read up a lot about. I got a bunch. I think I've got pretty much probably almost every book that's been written about him. And his daughter used to write me, and she'd invited me to come out to Cyprus and study and train with them in their meditation. So I know his material pretty well. So when I saw what Luke did, I was like, oh, that's like what Daskalos was teaching in these books that I've been reading on and off over the years. But I was like, wow, that's cool. They put that in Star Wars, but I didn't know, oh, that's already in a Star Wars resource guide. Wow, man, that was a deep cut, man. Ryan is a big Star Wars fan. Just because you might not have liked the movie that he put out, that doesn't, like I said, don't fall for the no true Scotsman fallacy. That does not make him any less of a Star Wars fan. You get what I'm saying? Like, just because you don't like what somebody does doesn't make them not a fan. It just means that they have different interests in you, right? Just like the guy that came in my living room called Luke Skywalker pussy, right? It doesn't make him any less of a fan, because then we started talking about Thor, and he geeked out on Thor, and I kind of wonder if that says something about the fact that he didn't like any women characters, and then Thor is like he almost jizzed on the floor talking about Thor. And I mean, I'm not, maybe that's somebody listening. I'm not saying that says anything about him, like, oh man, he must be some kind of white supremacist or something. He likes the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy and the hammer, and doesn't like Captain Marvel. And I'm just saying, like, maybe when we talk about seeing the best version of yourself, maybe at some point in time he saw Luke Skywalker and was like, that used to be who I aspired to be, the best version of me. But this Luke Skywalker and what I view as the best version of myself, those don't line up. But Thor lines up with the best version of me, of who I aspire to be. And that, I love Thor. Thor is my favorite. Even the dude Thor, the dude, right? Cut Thanos' head off, right? Cut his arm off. and then cut his head off, right? Or the dude Thor, he's messing with me again, right? What was that the Korg said? And Thor takes the phone. Hello, this is Thor, god of thunder, son of Odin. Noob Master 69, if you don't leave my friend alone, I will come to your house, I will rip off your arms, and I will shove them up your butt. That's why y'all should be on my City of Heroes streams. I said that so many times on there. Noob Master 69, if you don't leave my friend alone, I will rip off your arms and I will shove them up your butt. I love Thor, man, but I made a program about Thor, the Hammer of Thor, and then once I saw Endgame, I told the guys, I was like, yeah, maybe I ought to. They were like, Prince, I think Thor needs to get on your program. I think Thor needs to get some kettlebells and do this program. But I'm just saying, like, when we look at this stuff, people look at it and they see it through their lenses. Their lenses are not your lenses. They got it from what did I say? From a certain point of view, they are right? It's a dude who makes videos about Star Wars and went to 100,000 subscribers in a year. Some of y'all might watch him and watch me too. I guess you like polar opposites. I don't know. And I like the stuff he says. I don't even want to have a conversation with him. But I don't say he's not a real fan. I joke and say there's Star Wars fans out there who hate Star Wars. I understand his business model. He says he's a media company, right? And he's the Fox News version. He's reporting the Fox News version of media. Let's get everybody outraged and create controversies, because controversy gets clicks. And that is smart. What I do, I'm not really trying to create any controversies. I'm just trying to explain things the way I see them. right? And that's not really going to be all that popular. Now, who knows? Hey, in Tai Chi, we talk about the soft overcoming hard. And I'm really trying to focus on this Tai Chi way of living my life, really. But even with my business, my training business, that Lauren, that's where I said, like, you know, the kind of the women's program. It's not necessarily a women's program. It's just not macho. It's not talking about becoming the strongest version of yourself from a macho way of thinking. Like, get in there, against all odds, no pain, no gain. Lift these heavy weights and tear your body down. You know, you got to do it this way and work out till you puke and pass out. I'm not really about that, right? And that's one reason I'm kind of backing away from the kettlebell training, because some days I'm like, I don't feel like lifting these kettlebells and, you know, tearing my body up. Maybe I just want to go and do like some kind of yoga type thing. And that's what I got today. I just want to move, right? I just want to flow, right? Like the force flows. And that's essentially where my training is going now, the training programs. And I found the people who like that the most are women. So, hey, man, if you're a dude out there, I'm going to tell y'all later on how to hit me up if you're interested in the coaching stuff, right? Not any cookie cutter programs. Everybody will have individual stuff, right? But that's I'll talk more about that once I wrap up. I'm not really focused on times and stuff. When I listen to podcasts, I listen to them in the car. If I have a 20-minute drive somewhere, I get 20 minutes. So if this thing runs for 2 hours, hey, man, you got a whole lot of entertainment for your car when I get the audio version up and going. But all I'm saying is that, you know, there are people that have their point of view, and they're all valid points of views. And essentially, how we determine who's right and who's wrong is really, we're looking for confirmation bias. All of us are looking for confirmation bias. That's why you can't persuade anybody. The art of persuasion is a lie, right? How you persuade people. If I've ever persuaded you on anything, and I've seen people say, hey, man, you kind of changed my mind about this kind of thing, right? And it's like, I didn't change your mind. You were already headed in that direction, right? You were already headed there. So I didn't persuade you on anything. Those seeds were already there. All I did was came in and watered them, right? I watered them. I give an example, right? I read this book called The Wing Chun Compendium years ago. Wayne Bellanoa, he's a Wing Chun instructor somewhere in Canada. And he had like this whole nutrition guide in the back, and I'm reading this. He's talking about like milk is bad and this and that, and you should do this to get more calcium. You don't really get calcium from milk. And then I read another book. This guy, I had actually met him, Bawa Mafunde. That's not his birth name. He changed his name. He teaches like African stick fighting and Tai Chi up in Louisville, Kentucky. And I read his book, and he's talking about milk is bad, and this is how you should drink nut milks. And I'm like, man, this dude is crazy, man. I thought he was a little bit crazy when I met him. Now he's all the way crazy. And then when I started meeting all these vegans, vegetarians, and it was like, oh, there's actually something to that. So it's like the vegans and the vegetarians didn't convince me on this nutrition stuff that they had been talking about as far as related to milk and how to actually get calcium, more calcium. The stuff that the milk industry is telling you is not exactly right when you look at the science and everything. They didn't convince me. The seeds had already been there, you know, from this book that I read in 2006. And I didn't start to come around until 2015. It took 9 years for me to come around to seeing things from their point of view. Those seeds had been there. I was not convinced. I was not persuaded. It was more like, oh, well, I'd been exposed to this thing, and then I got exposed to it again. It usually takes 3 to 4 times for you to be exposed to a message before you start to finally accept it, right? Yeah, that's that. Anyway, let's get to Count Dooku, right? So we're coming up on hour number 2. I think this might be a 2-hour episode, but I got to remember that some of this is going to get cut out. So those of you listening to the podcast, I did a little bit of a warm up. We had some technical difficulties at the start. So if you're like, man, he said he's been talking an hour and maybe it's only been 30 minutes or 40 minutes on your end, that's because some of this that where I've been recording is not gonna make it to the final version. You guys haven't missed out on anything. So let's talk about Count Dooku. So I have a feeling, I've said this before, that I'm a fan of using the current stuff to set up the past, right? I think that I've heard a rumor, if there is an Obi-Wan Kenobi show that's waiting to be announced coming to Disney Plus, that's the Disney streaming service. I've heard a rumor that something in the Rise of Sky, oh, spoiler, of course I've already kind of told you guys. Spoiler warning, you might just want to skip through this part. I've heard a rumor, and this is coming from the guys at Star Wars News Net, so it's not a Mike Zero thing. It's not from somebody on YouTube. None of us on YouTube have inside information. We're either making it up or we're getting it from somewhere, and we're not crediting our sources. None of us have inside contacts that I know of. So but the guys making Star Wars and Star Wars News Net, they do know people on the ground. What's his name at making Star Wars? Sometimes he's out there spying on them himself. But I think his name is John, the editor at Star Wars News Net. They wrote a while back that if there is an Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming, there's something in The Rise of Skywalker that is going to be introduced, or that has something to do with the plot, and that's going to bleed over into one of these shows, probably the Obi-Wan show. I have a feeling that there's going to be Easter eggs that are going to be involved in the Mandalorian, right? When I get more into the Rise of Skywalker, I'll tell you why I think that. But it has something to do with what my man Manny pointed out in the Vanity Fair pictures. Just go look at the Knights of Ren picture, and then look at like some picture from Dryden Voss's office with the Mandalorian, the ancient Mandalorian samurai get up that he had on display in his office, right? But I'll talk about that later. We're on Count Dooku, right? But I'm kind of talking about how I think the current stuff is going to set up the Old Republic in canon and some of this older stuff, right? But we've been getting a lot of stuff on Count Dooku. He's been the most interesting person in Star Wars for the last month, right? So Count Dooku has been involved in this audio drama called Jedi Lost. It's not like the regular audio books. You had a bunch of voice actors who worked on all these other audio books for Star Wars. They all come together. Count Dooku's voice kind of threw some people off because he didn't sound anything like the voice in the Clone Wars or I just forgot his name. Sir Christopher Reeves. His name is not Christopher Reeves. That's Superman. What is his name that played Count Dooku? It really just slipped my mind. Y'all know who I'm talking about, right? He was Sauron or something in Lord of the Rings too. Played Dracula and all kinds of stuff. Stage actor, sword fighter, swordsman, whatever. Y'all know I'm talking about, the real Count Dooku. Anyway, the person who voiced Count Dooku is the voice of the Sith Inquisitor if you play Star Wars Old Republic. So there is a cool connection right there that the male Sith Inquisitor voiced Count Dooku, right? In this audio drama. So he had Jedi Lost. Sir Christopher Lee, that's it. Yeah, appreciate that. Who is that? I can't see your name. Fiji. Okay. So Dooku was involved in Jedi Lost, and that's where you essentially get Dooku's backstory, like his backstory. There was the joke about Dooku doesn't have a last name. What is his last name, or what's his first name? He's just Dooku. Apparently his name is Dooku Cyrano, the Count of Cyrano. We learned that his family named the planet Cyrano. They're the House of Cyrano. You got like the House of Nobles or something, and Cyrano is the head family, the head house, because Dooku's ancestor, a great how many generations grandfather, chased the Sith off. Cyrano was part of the Sith Empire, so his planet has a connection to the Sith. He's got a connection to the Sith, right? And then we get a lot about him in the Master and Apprentice book. It's supposed to be about Qui-Gon in Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this master and apprentice has a double meaning to it because they're involved in this story that involves Dooku's first apprentice, Rael Averross, something like that, who was Dooku's first apprentice, right? And Rael joined the Jedi Temple when he was already a child, like older than, I think they said the oldest they taken was like 4 or 5. I think maybe he joined when he was 4 or 5. Like he already kind of knew his family, and so there was an issue there. And it makes it when you get master and apprentice, it's like, well, it doesn't really make sense. But then later, after you get Jedi Lost, then it makes sense why that happened, because Dooku, they had the Sereno was having this celebration or whatever. I think they were trying to join the Republic. There was this big fair. The Jedi went out to do demonstrations. Dooku goes because it's like, oh, we've got a Jedi who's from Sereno, right? And Dooku kind of sees this girl and he's like, I feel something. There's a connection through the Force. This is weird. He starts following her. She's his sister, right? So they go on this thing. Dooku, she shows him this statue of this monster that's from like childhood stories, the creature in the closet on Sereno, and later you find out that creature's real, right? A creature that was created, a Sith war beast that was created through Sith alchemy. That's something from Legends. Now that's canon. The Sith would experiment, do this genetic engineering with the Force and create war beasts. If you have the book of the Sith, right? I've got it in my backpack. I guess I should have had it. That's something that Rian Johnson drew from the Jedi version for The Last Jedi. That's canon now. What Luke did at the end, right? On Ahch-To. Then he projected himself, right? Now, Sith alchemy is a real even though we kind of saw Sith alchemy in the Clone Wars, that's how Yoda saw Sifo-Dyas. And then we get Sifo-Dyas' story, and it's real sad. Sifo-Dyas and Dooku were best friends. Sifo, dude, right? They were homies, right? And you find out that Dooku killed his homie, but Sifo-Dyas was kind of crazy, right? He was having these premonitions, and that's why Yoda's like, beware the future, right? These futures can lead to madness. They can lead to the dark side. We get this whole story about the old Jedi and the Jedi mystics. Now there aren't any Jedi mystics because some of them, they saw this future and they got attached. They clung to the future, got attached, and fell to the dark side. They tried to force that future to happen, right? They tried to force that future to happen, and they clung. They got attached. They got stuck to one possibility, and what Yoda's saying essentially is leave yourself open to all possibilities. Yes, this thing can happen, but don't cling to it. And then Qui-Gon had this whole other experience where I've had a vision. I've had a vision through the Force. And Dooku kind of encouraged, but didn't encourage. He was studying these prophecies, right? But it is like Dooku studying the prophecies because he's struggling with the dark side, especially after what happened with him and Dooku and Sifo-Dyas' master, where she took them to this planet strong with the dark side. Dooku and Sifo-Dyas had a vision of the Clone Wars. But what Dooku saw was the Jedi taking over. He saw the Jedi ruling, the Jedi leading warriors in the battle, the Jedi ruling, taking over. And it's like, I don't think this is right. This shouldn't happen. And it's crazy, man. Dooku was the model Jedi, right? He was the best duelist. He sat on the Jedi Council at one point in time. He was like this is the Jedi you want to be. Yoda hadn't taken apprentice in who knows how long, but he took on Dooku, right? And Yoda was a hard master. It was like, I'm just going to sit here and meditate. It was like something out the Kung Fu movies, right? Dooku, master, I'm ready to train. Yoda's just sitting there, Dooku tore up one of the trees, one of the Unity trees in the little Jedi temple guarded. And then Yoda was like, he's like, look, master, look what I do. And then Yoda's like, okay, yeah, I guess you're ready to train now. Your training begins today, right? Because Dooku's trying to show off, look how much I've learned on my own, master. I'm ready, right? And he's like, wax the cars, paint the fence, sand the floor, Danielson, sand the floor, paint that fence, wax on, wax off. wax on, wax off. Right? And, man, Mr. Miyagi, I came here to learn karate, man. And it was like, paint the fence. Paint the fence. You know, and now he's blocking. Now it's like, whoa, I know karate. Well, you don't really know karate, you just know the movements, right? But Dooku had that experience with Yoda, and he became the ideal Jedi. But I mentioned this earlier. I said, you know, Dooku mentioned that there was a Jedi temple at Ossus. That got mentioned. And Ossus, that's something from Legends. We learned that Sereno, the planet, had ties to the old Sith Empire. We learned that Sith alchemy and Sith war beasts are a thing. Dooku's got this strong connection to the dark side, and eventually it wins out, right? He goes to Sereno to help his sister. He unearths that war beast that is like a dragon. He ends up killing it, but the dragon that was created by the Sith, right? It's like first he used beast, not beast taming, but beast connection, right? The same thing that Ezra has, right, in Star Wars Rebels. That was something, apparently some Jedi were very gifted with it. Some Jedi can bond with certain animals. Dooku bonded with this creature created from the dark side, and it left part of it on him. It was after that experience and everything that happened there on Sereno, they were asking for help from the Republic. The Republic wasn't going to help them. The Jedi were like, our hands are tied. We can't do anything. And the Republic hadn't passed on it. And we're just, you know, and it was like, Dooku's like, hey man, there are planets out there that need our help. We're supposed to help them as Jedi. And the Jedi are like, yo man, like, no, we can't do that. You know, the Republic hadn't passed on it. And Dooku was just like, look, I'm tired of having our hands tied. This is what we need to do. And that's essentially what led to Dooku leaving the Order. It wasn't, oh, Dooku was upset because Qui-Gon was killed by a Sith and the Jedi. Because look, man, that doesn't make sense. Like, if Dooku knows that his Padawan was killed by a Sith Lord, why would he turn around and join the Sith? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? That's why I started to tweet out. I was like, yo, man, canon is better than Legends, just to irritate some people. But like I said at the start, like, just give the canon some time to expand. You got 30 something years of Legends of the EU. Let them expand the canon. People, oh man, this is better. They need to bring this. And that gets back to the whole Knights of the Old Republic thing. The canon version might be so much better than the story. There are flaws in the story. We don't like to admit it, but there are flaws, and it's not a perfect story. I mean, look what happened to Revan. People look at just Knights of the Old Republic, and somebody say, you don't need to have played the games to understand the story. How well do you understand the story? Do you know the full story? Do you know what happened to Revan, right? Revan leaves to go find the true Sith and leaves Bastila, and that's it. Nobody hears from him. He finds he gets imprisoned, right? He goes to the planet where Vitiate just killed all of life, right? To make himself basically immortal. And Revan goes there, and then he ends up getting captured, right? And then he's Revan reborn or whatever, and he, you know, basically melts a member of the Dark Council with his Force lightning, right? Which was kind of cool. Right, and then Mitra Surik, his apprentice, or not his apprentice, but someone who served under him during the Jedi Mandalorian Civil Wars, she had her Force connection severed because of all the trauma that she felt. You know, when they released that mass shadow generator, this basically they nuked the Mandalorians to win the war, which sounds like something straight out of World War II, right? We dropped a nuke to end the war, to get this other side to surrender. Star Wars doesn't have any real life. It's like, hey man, all Star Wars does is draw from real life, right? The U.S. dropped a bomb on Japan to get them to surrender. Revan released the mass shadow generator on Malachor to get the Mandalorians to surrender during the Jedi Mandalorian Civil War, right? It's the same thing, right? Yeah, somebody said Revan's book was a bit of a letdown, but you want the Old Republic. You want the Bioware story because that's part of the story. That's part of the story. Star Wars Old Republic deals with that, right? Who is this guy Revan? And Revan goes explore, understand the true Sith, because all the stuff that happened with Revan and Bastila, Revan was sent there to find he was seduced to the dark side, right? He and Malak by Vitiate, right? All the stuff in Knights of the Old Republic, there were pawns. They were pawns set up by Vitiate. Now, what Vitiate didn't see was that Malak, now that they're the dark side, and Revan is like, I'm your master. I'm bow to me, right? I cut your jaw off. That's why you wear the ventilator, right? Malak decides, I'm not going to let that ride. I'm going to kill Revan when I get a chance. So when Bastila and the Jedi lead the strike force to take down Revan, Malak, that's the first thing that happens in, Knights of the Old Republic. The first thing you learn about when I don't remember if Karth talked about it or Bastila when you meet her. I don't remember. It's been years since I played that game. Malak fires on Revan's ship, thinks he's killed him, but what happens? Revan is injured. When they nurse him back, they wipe his mind, right? They wipe his mind. What people had been saying about Rey. Rey was really a Jedi, and Luke wiped her mind and left her on left her on Jakku, and it was like, why would Luke do something like that? That doesn't sound like something what Luke would do, right? But now we're talking about what my Luke Skywalker wouldn't do that. My Luke Skywalker wouldn't walk away from the universe, the galaxy. But you were just saying that your Luke Skywalker would wipe Rey's mind and leave her on Jakku, on a junk planet, by herself, right? To fend for herself, right? With nothing. He could at least left her, gave her a lightsaber to fight or something. He left her with nothing, a scavenger on Jakku, right? Basically nowhere, as Luke later said to Rey. Why would your Luke Skywalker would do what lines up with your fan theory, with your headcanon? But he wouldn't do this thing that lines up with somebody else's headcanon who happens to be writing and directing the movie, right? You don't have to agree with stuff, but try to understand why that happened. What's the thought process? What have I said? When you watch these stories, ask, why is this happening? What's the logical line here? Trace that back, and it'll make things make more sense. You might not agree with it, but it'll at least make sense, right? This story with Revan, I'm telling you, man, it didn't go the way people thought. Revan and Bastila are gonna be Kylo Ren and Rey are gonna be like Revan and Bastila. So at some point, if we're going with that, Kylo Ren's gonna go off. I'm gonna go find out what is a Snoke? Where did Snoke come from? I'm going off into the unknown regions now, Rey. You'll never hear from me again. I mean, that's essentially, if that's what you want to happen, you're making that comparison. First, Rey falls to the dark side. Snoke seduces her. She sacrifices herself, and that she almost did that, right? She almost sacrificed herself to help Ben turn back to the light, right? And then Ben, leaves and comes back stronger. And now I'm gonna go confront Snoke, and now I gotta fight Rey, dark side Rey, because that's what happened in Knights of the Old Republic. Revan had to confront Bastila after Malak finally tortured her and turned her to the dark side, right? And it's like, I'm not going to kill you. Why? Why not? Because I love you. And the love redeemed Bastila, right? Made her turn back to the light. Their love that they weren't supposed to have with each other, right? So, yeah, I be careful of that, right? I would look more into stuff that's actually canon, right? When we start talking about this Old Republic thing. And like I said, it could be Bastila and Revan and Darth Malak, but it's not going to go the way you think. Is all I'm trying to say, man. It's not going to be that same story played out on the screen. It shouldn't be. Why? Because we've already seen that. This is why I didn't want, when we heard that Star Wars was coming back, they were going to launch a new trilogy, and some of my friends were like, oh man, they got to do Heir to the Empire and Thrawn and this, and I was like, well, I started reading those books, but it's like, you guys have had these books for years, and I wasn't even talking about Star Wars, but I wish I had started the Star Wars conversation on my YouTube channel then, because I would have said this and there would have been a record, and I could say, go back to a video I did 6 years ago or 5 years ago or however many. Yeah, it would have been a 5-year-old video at this point. And I said, go back, look at what I had to say about why they shouldn't do Heir to the Empire. And I would have said, because people have been reading this book, these stories for decades. And if they go to the movie to see this that has already been written, and there's nothing against Timothy Zahn. I love what he's doing with Thrawn now. I can't wait for the new book to come out this summer. I mean, they know what's going to happen. Where's the suspense there? You've already read the story. You know what's going to happen, right? So then it comes down to, well, they did this in the book, but they didn't do this in the movie, right? And it's not to say that you won't like it, because I got a friend who's big into Harry Potter. She's read all the books. She knows exactly what was in the books and what was not in the movies, and where, this character was different here, and I wish they could have done this, but she still loves the movies. And that's not to say that people who read the books wouldn't love the movies, but I'm sure if I really got in the Harry Potter thing, I'm sure I would run into a pocket of the Harry Potter fandom, the Harry Potter verse. I'm sure there's a niche, a subset of fans who hate the movies but love the books because the movies left things out of the books. I know they're out there. Some of y'all listening, maybe you're into Harry Potter too. You probably know, you probably nodding your, yeah, Prince, you're kind of right. You're right, Prince. Maybe they go to Harry Potter World, or they want to go, right, and drink some butter beer or whatever it is. I don't know. But I'm saying, like, if all that stuff, those stories, you can, if it's not exactly the way it is for some people, they're just gonna riot, man. And then it's other people, they never heard of this stuff, right? So it's like, okay, I should be excited about it. Maybe I'll go back and play the games or whatever, or read the books, or get on Wikipedia and learn about it. But I would rather have something new. Now, I'm not saying don't do Revan and Bastila. Like, I would love, this is a reimagining of the story. This is the canon version of this story, and they pop up. That would be cool. That would bring everybody out, and so some people don't feel like, oh man, I don't know about this, and I don't know if, you can't please everybody. I don't know if this is for me because I never played the games and I'm not really interested in them. But it's like you make it a new experience for everyone. This is the source material that we're drawing from, but this is the story, the way it lines up. Things are gonna look different. It's 4,000 years prior. Maybe this happens, before the Scourge of Malachor, the canon version, not the mass shadow generator. There's lots of cool things they can do with the Old Republic. You could deal with the Jedi Crusaders, which is something that kind of there was an Easter egg for the Jedi Crusaders in The Last Jedi. Where's my Luke Funko? I've got this one, but where's my other one? There's like Luke in his little fisherman outfit. Those of y'all listening to the podcast, y'all don't see, but I got like the Luke Funko that you see on crate at the end of The Last Jedi. Where is it? I don't see it. I don't know what I did with it. That's Ray. Here it is. Got it. All right, so this Luke, right? And he's got the little pendant that everybody said he was gonna wear, and then we didn't even see it in the movie. All right, but you see it in the visual guide. The little red lightsaber crystal, the Sith lightsaber crystal. In the visual guide for The Last Jedi, it says that came from a Jedi Crusader. They kept the lightsaber crystal of a Sith that I guess they killed or something, right? Maybe that Sith killed their master. Like, I'm creating a story around it. And they went back and got revenge or something like that. And they kept the crystal because that Sith killed their master, bled the lightsaber crystal, the kyber crystal, and now they took it back. Or maybe, maybe their master, they knew who that was that turned to the dark side, and they took it back to remember them because they were close at some point in time. I don't know. You can create a story around that. But what's the bigger story? At one time, there was a Jedi crusade against the Sith. If their Jedi were on a crusade against the Sith, maybe that was once more the Sith shall rule the galaxy. What's with that? And with that, you could have Palpatine saying something in The Rise of Skywalker that sets up, there's a bigger story here. What's going on with Palpatine And how did he come back? And maybe this ties back to something in the past, going all the way back to the Sith Empire, when the Sith actually did rule the galaxy. And the Jedi were crusaders because they were trying to free the galaxy from tyranny. And you got this whole other version of, we're leading the rebellion, but this time it's not just rebel soldiers, it's Jedi, right? The Jedi fighting from Ossus, and the Sith are ruling Coruscant, or they rule the galaxy, right? Because the Jedi temple there on Coruscant was built over a Sith shrine, right? Where you needed to go there to perform this ritual to unleash the full powers of the dark side, right? How did the Sith have that shrine there on Coruscant? And what does it say about the fact that Coruscant is supposed to be the center of the known galaxy as far as the Republic is concerned, and the Jedi needed to be there to spread their web of the Force or whatever, to be able to properly discern the Force from Coruscant if the Sith were there first, right? And we built this to kind of squash out the dark side, but what ended up happening is the dark side is leaching through as the Sith become more and more powerful, under the Bane Order, the Bane line, with that ideology that we're laying in the shadows and slowly steering the course of events in the galaxy until we can have the Jedi so spread out and confused that we can strike from the shadows and get our revenge, right? Where does that all start? Man, there's so many places. When you talk about the old Republic, there's so many stories out there. If people just pay attention, what have we already been given? And will the current movie set all of this up? Could they open up the galaxy, explode things, so that Rian Johnson and Dave and Dan, that they can do a continuing story? This is how the things are impacted in other parts of the galaxy that we haven't even thought about, separate from what's going on with the Skywalker family. And then all of this stuff that we saw dealing with the Skywalkers, where did this had a real beginning? Where did it all begin, right? So it's like, for people who don't understand, there's this new thing. It's like Star Wars, but it's old Star Wars. What's up with that? Well, you liked this. There was Anakin in the prequels and then Darth Vader. Well, now we're seeing how all of that started. How all of the stuff, the conflicts, we're seeing how all of that started. How the old Republic fell or rose, or this current Republic, where it came from. Who knows? Like, the old Republic doesn't necessarily have to be 4,000 years ago. The old Republic could be before Palpatine, right? But we're thinking it's the old Republic, like Knights of the Old Republic, like way, way back. What was going on then? We don't really know. Right? But I've kind of mentioned the rise of Skywalker and it using the present to tell stories about the past. Right? So we got these Vanity Fair interviews and new pictures that look great. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I kind of glanced through some of it. I haven't had time to really sit down and read that stuff. So either in next week's podcast, I probably will go in deeper on that stuff. But I'll try to get out some YouTube videos to kind of touch on some of the stuff that I see is more interesting. And then the podcast, if I do videos during the week, the podcast, I'll probably kind of touch on, summarize things. And if it's something that just comes to me, it's going to come out, because this is Star Wars off the dome, right? Whatever comes to me is going to come out, right? So there, some people, I think Raylo people really went in deep on some comments that Adam Driver made about a potential Kylo Ren and Rey relationship, where he was like, Kylo Ren is kind of trying to decide, is there a relationship here? Is there a friendship? Are they going to be enemies? And Trisha Barr, Fangirls Going Rogue podcast, and Hyperspace Theories, and she writes for Star Wars Insider magazine, and she co-wrote the most recent Star Wars encyclopedia. So she, when she talks about Star Wars, I really pay attention to what she's got to say. She was saying this. Adam Driver's not saying this is this thing that's going to happen. She said he's a method actor, and he's talking about what Kylo Ren the character would be thinking. Kylo Ren the character could be interested in Rey, in a relationship, like a girlfriend, but Rey might not necessarily have those feelings, right? And some of that comes from out of loneliness, right? We're the only two people, and they've shared minds. And I did a video on this. I was like, look, man, there is a Raylo thing there. I'm acknowledging there is a Raylo thing there, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean a romantic relationship, kissy love, and the Raylo people are like, yeah, but there's always romance in Star Wars, and it's like, okay, there is romance in Star Wars. Rose kissed Finn at the end of The Last Jedi. And then when you read the novel, it's like all along, Rose is interested in Finn. Oh, look, he's good looking. Oh, he's so handsome. Oh, I like him. Oh, I'm worried about what's going to happen when he meets his Jedi girlfriend, right? She's feeling some kind of way about Rey. And then at some point in The Rise of Skywalker, at least from the promotional pictures, Rose and Rey are going to meet. They're going to have a conversation. Maybe they start talking about Finn, right? Maybe Rose is going along for the adventure too. Some people, oh yeah, we're not gonna see Rose. I like Rose's character. I like Kelly Marie Tran. Kelly Marie Tran, I know she's got a boyfriend, but if one day she doesn't have that issue, hey Kelly, come holler at me. I'll watch Harry Potter with you. Even though I just said I'm not really into Harry Potter. I've seen all the movies. I'll go to Harry Potter land with you. I'll be your Finn. You could be my Rosebud. Let me not get off on a tangent, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I like Asian girls, so let me not lose my train of thought. But there's romance there, right? How does the movie end? Ray and Rose, both of the names start with R. Finn is taking care of Rose. Like, he's like, why did you do that? They've had this adventure? They almost died together. They almost were executed together. Rose was there. Finn rose up against Phasma. He made his choice. He made his stand. I'm resistant scum. I'm rebel scum, right? Because that's what Finn's journey was about in The Last Jedi. He had to decide his identity, and so did Rey. Rey and Finn are essentially the same character as far as their development, as far as their hero's journey, right? Rey wants to run when given the choice. Finn wants to run. Finn ran at Maz's castle, and so did Rey. I don't know how people miss that, right? It's Finn. We got to go to the Resistance and return BB-8, right? And what does Finn do? He runs. Then when Rey, here's the lightsaber. Rey, you got to take this lightsaber and go find Luke. They've got the same mission. They're both involved with finding Luke. Going to Leia and saying, look, Leia, we figured out how to find Luke. At least we think. And what happens? They both run. They cut tail and run. Then what happens? Well, Kylo Ren shows up. Finn is horrified, afraid of Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren picks up, knocks out Rey, takes her, and now what does Finn do? I gotta go get Rey. I'm only here to get Rey. Here's the plan. This is how you take down Starkiller Base. How do you know? Because I used to mop the floors. Ha ha, you're a janitor. Ha ha. And I'm like, Finn was a cadet, a stormtrooper cadet. Now, because most of my friends are veterans, I didn't realize that only 2% of the population in the United States has served in the military. So I know it's not 98% of the population, but the vast majority of the population, the people who see this, it probably flew over their heads. And I'm talking till I'm blue in the face. When you're a cadet, you're not commissioned. You don't have a job. You're in training. What do you do in training? What do you do if you join the Navy and you're a deck seaman, right? You're an E1 deck seaman. Do you know what you do on the ship? You clean stuff all day. I used to walk by. I was an electrician. I walk down the halls. I would see guys polishing doorknobs. It's like, dude, what are you doing today? I'm polishing every doorknob on this P-way, right? Somebody said mop floor. Yep. If you're in supply, do you know what you do when you're E1, E2 seaman in supply? You take out trash. They refill the Coke machines on the ship. They mop the floors, right? You're not qualified to do anything. So when Finn is like, I was a janitor. Oh, I mopped the floors on Snoke Supremacy ship, right? Well, what did you do on Starkiller Base? I took out the trash. Even that Captain Phasma book says that, right? Because you're dealing with a Cardinal. What did Cardinal do? He trained Finn. He trained the junior cadets. And do you know when he's being interrogated by Vi Moratti down in the under, or maybe he was interrogating her, I don't remember. But they're down in the underbelly. He was probably interrogating her because she's on his ship, right? And they're getting the full story on Phasma. He's telling Phasma's, maybe, I don't remember. I think she was interrogating him, because why would he tell her the full story on Phasma? But I don't remember. You get the full story of Phasma from Cardinal though, and Vi Moratti. They're down there together, and he's talking about you know like the stormtrooper cadets coming. They don't come down there very often, but they might be down there to take out the trash, to mop the floors, mop the P-ways, whatever, right? That's what you do, right? So when Finn's talking about, I was a janitor here, I did that. Well, Prince, how was he the top stormtrooper in his class? Well, you said it right there, in his class. Who goes to school? Who's in classes? Students. What do you do when you're in the military and you're in training? You do all the jobs nobody else wants to do, right? Do you think that you're on in the First Order? You think they call freaking Molly Maid out? Hey, we're in the unknown regions of space. We don't know where we are, but we're gonna call Hosnian Prime and tell Molly Maid to come out here and clean the ship. Hey, Molly Maid, come out here. Don't tell Leia and the Resistance, and don't tell the New Republic anything about us, but we need you to come out here and clean up Snoke's boo-boo, right? Snoke is an old man, he had a bladder accident and peed all over his throne room, right? We need Molly Maid to come out here. No, man, it was Finn and Slip and all them dudes out there mopping up, Snoke's incontinence, right? Kylo Ren done got mad, pitched the temper, and tore something up, right? They wasn't calling Molly Maid out in the middle of the unknown regions of space. They would tell Finn, get your black butt in here. And for those of y'all that don't know, I'm a black guy, so, oh man, he's racist, right? And I started not to say but. Oh man, appreciate Manny. What's up, man? Appreciate the $20 super chat. He said, do you think we'll find out more about Darth Ren in episode 9, or will he appear in the Old Republic series or a novel? Let me come back to you with that question before I forget what I was saying. But my point is, like, Finn, he did sanitation duty because he was in training. He was a trainee. He was in training.
You have been well trained, my young apprentice. They will be no match for you.
They will be no match for you. Wow, I got a Streamlabs bot in here. That's awesome. I didn't know that. But my point is, that's what you do when you're in training, right? I talk about, if you watch my City of Heroes over on my Hero Culture channel, I've been playing with my bros, Forrest and Jordan. We have a story about the greatest night on watch when Forrest tried to fight a bobcat, and this kid, it's not funny to joke about, but this kid committed suicide, and we were like there to like see his final moments. But you know what we did when we were on that watch? We had a 12-hour watch. We walked around the base for 12 hours, and whenever the Master at Arms like saw trash around, because he'd go out sometimes do his rounds in a golf cart, we're on foot, right? And there were three teams, and we'd like walk around, and then we go to like this huge area, and then we basically walk in circles around that area until it was time to rotate to a new place. And he'd be like, oh, there's trash here, go pick it up. We were basically walking around picking up trash for 12 hours. And we're in nuke school. We're training for naval nuclear propulsion, right? The Star Trek equivalent to that is we were working for freaking Geordi LaForge in the engineering room, or oh, Captain, I cannot give her any more. Captain, I'm giving her all I got. What's that dude's name? Was that Scotty, or who was the engineering dude in the OG Star Trek? That was us, right? When the Young Turks were making fun of Trump, and the Young Turks, I like them, but they get stuff wrong sometimes. They sound Jank sounded like an idiot when he was making fun of Trump this time, right? Yeah, Scotty. So Trump was on the phone with like this admiral, and they're talking about the catapults on the new aircraft carrier. I think it's the Gerald Ford, right? So they're using electromagnetic. Like they told us this back in 2004, 2005. They were like, "Yo, man, these new catapults are gonna be like rail guns that just like fire the jets off the flight deck, right?" Now on the Nimitz class ships, the catapults that help fire the planes off the flight deck, they are steam powered, right? Because one of my buddies in boot camp, when I got to the Reagan, one of my buddies was in that steam shop right above my shop that did that. And the freaking steam pipes, I used to sit on them to stay warm sometimes, and I would practice my Wing Chun. I probably should say this, but I mean the pipes were like, you can't even see my arms. Like that's how big they were. Like they were. Well, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't even like see me. But just imagine me trying to hug a really big tree trunk, right? Really, really big, where your arms won't even meet. And I got long arms, right? That's how big those steam pipes were. So I would sit on one. I would sit there practicing my chain punches on the on those steam pipes. They were big, right? But the problem is, and I didn't notice. Actually, I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with Trump, like. Because he was like, well, why? How? That's what's working. Why not? And people in the comments and they're like, what is Trump talking about? We don't use steam powered engines. The steam power. And I'm like, no, actually, Trump is right. And you're kind of sounding stupid because a steam powered engine is more efficient than gasoline powered engines. You know why we use gasoline engines? Because of oil, because of money, right? Steam powered engines are more efficient, way more efficient. I think a gas powered engine is like the least efficient engine. Period. But oil, yo. Right. That's, I don't want to give away classified secrets, but you can probably Google this, right? Is the nuclear reactor on the ship. It makes steam. You make steam. The steam turns a turbine. The turbine is connected to a generator that generates electricity. It turns another turbine that turns the screw on the ship that makes the ship move through the water. That's it, right? So that steam that would come off the reactor was also used for the catapults. Now, with it being like a freaking rail gun, it's electrical, but it's like high voltage. So what Trump was talking about, he was like, so the Einsteins are running that, right? The Einsteins are, and it's like, I understand that because he's talking about the guys in nuclear propulsion. The nukes are running all of this, right? But people who don't know anything about this stuff, and I had heard about it in nuke school, was, one of my instructors kept talking about, yeah, the catapults on the carriers are going to be part of a reactor division soon, right? And at the time, none of us had been in the fleet, so we didn't understand. So as I'm hearing Trump talk about this, it's like, oh yeah, we talked about that in Power School like 14 years ago, and the tech is finally coming out. But we knew this was coming in 2004, 2005, right? Yeah, nuclear power plants use steam. So, but like Trump is referring to us as Einsteins. We're Einsteins, right? We're the most intelligent people in the Navy, supposedly, right? Most of us don't have common sense or people skills. So think about that the next time I say something. Y'all like, that's really abrasive, Prince. And it's like, sometimes I don't have people skills. Sometimes I'm one of them really smart people who says something offensive, and to me it's like, what did I say, right? I think like all like intelligent people are like slightly autistic. I think we all are, and I won't even say, because there's multiple forms of intelligence, right? But you don't get it, man. And it's like, sometimes I don't, right? Because from my point of view, it's like everybody should understand this, right? I said that earlier. Anyway, so my point is, Trump's talking about we're Einsteins, and now I just told you guys, this is a blue snowball. Yeah, the snowball mic. I think Alex uses one of these, or he used to. So does Freddie Prinze Jr. I should really use this on my gaming channel, but I haven't figured out how to use it without it picking up like my clicks and everything else. But my point is like, we did all this stuff. I got a Donald Trump in the stream who apparently hates Ryan Johnson. Got some funny people on the live stream, some comedians. Anyway, but my point is, We're supposed to be the smartest people in the Navy, but we were on sanitation duty because we're not qualified to do anything yet, right? Which is the same thing with Finn. But I was saying all of that about Finn and Rey. They're basically on the same journey. So where does their journey take them? Now they're in the process of completing their hero's journey, becoming the giver of boons. What is that for Rey? I teach people the ways of the Force. She's got to complete her Jedi training. She's had a year to run with the Resistance, but also spend that time with the Jedi text. She's a fast learner, but Rey has put in a lot of work, right? Somebody said earlier that, it was like I talked about training and everything, but Rey had none. Rey's had training. One, she's had Kylo Ren's training, because this is where I was talking about Rey and Kylo Ren. The whole Reylo thing is deeper than just a relationship. They share minds, right? When Kylo Ren stole Rey's memories, Rey also stole Kylo Ren's memories. That's how she started experimenting with her powers. Kylo Ren's like, she's starting to use her powers. That's what scared him, is he knew that she peeked into his mind. You're afraid that you'll never be as powerful as Darth Vader, right? But the way he reached into her mind and stole her memories and talked about the dreams, and she'd had visions of Ahch-To. So the fact that she'd had visions of Ahch-To, that says ding ding, the Force has been reaching out to her. Ding ding, it's her job to go and find Luke Skywalker. The Force has chosen her to find Luke Skywalker and be his next student, to bring him back into the fray. The Force has already been doing that before the movie picked up. Before the awakening happened, you learn that Rey has been learning how she knew how to fly the Millennium Falcon, how she knew all this stuff about making repairs. Rey's survival guide, right? You learn about. That's why I said read that, and if you read that, you're gonna start to. A lot of these Rey parent theories are kind of gonna go away, right? I want to do a video. I was gonna write it this week. I'll probably sit down. Last week I probably. Because, a lot of, do you think J.J. Abrams is going to retcon what Rian Johnson did with Rey's parents? And I'm going to say no. But if it were up to me, I can fix the thing with Rey's parents. I can fix it because I've already a long time ago, I gave y'all a theory, right? Where I was like, what if Thane Kyrell and Sienna Reed were Rey's parents? All I have to do is erase that part and what I said about them. So go watch that video from 2016. If you do something like that, it would fix what Rian Johnson did with her parents, right? I can fix that. I'll do a video on it if you guys want to see that. It's not hard, right? It's really not hard. Rian Johnson, threw the lob. Have you ever seen... I was at a basketball game when I was in college because I was the student coach on the women's basketball team. So that's why I was at the game. We were up in Kentucky at Center College. We got destroyed that weekend. It was the last weekend of the regular season. And our men's team got destroyed too. And I remember somebody got ripped, which means they stole the ball. And they had this little point guard named Brian Britt. And he was like a defensive back on the football team at one point in time. So he was strong and athletic. And Brian Britt, and they had this 6'7" guy that was just a freak of an athlete. I bet he could dunk from the free throw line. Nowadays, everybody can dunk from the free throw line, but this was 2001 where, it was not everybody was a genetic freak like now. Where you got kids my size that are dunking like Vince Carter and just putting their elbow in the rim and stuff, right? And I'm not tall. I'm 5'7". So that's impressive, right? I could dunk a basketball, but I wouldn't putting my elbow in the rim, right? They make what I was doing look like nothing. But anyway, so Brian Britt stole a ball at half court. He took one dribble and just launched the ball. It looked like he was shooting a shot from half court. And I'm like, why would he do that? And so that's what Rian Johnson essentially did for some of y'all. It's like, why would he do that? That is stupid. But then this 6'7" freak comes streaming down the side of the court, took off from I don't know how far away. It looked like he caught the ball from behind the backboard and he caught it and it was cocked way back. And then he just he caught it with one hand and just boom, tomahawk. It was like he caught the ball from out of bounds from behind the backboard because Brian just threw this crazy lob, and somehow he like floated back in bounds or brought his arm back in from behind the backboard in front of it and to the other side. Like he did a reverse dunk and dunked the ball. I mean, the boys were getting, the guys' team was getting killed. The girls' team, I thought we got killed because we were playing a close game. And then the second half, the women's team went like 10 for 13 from the 3-point line. That's 30 points. And we had like the best 3-point shooting team in the country. And they outplayed our game. I mean, we were like the Golden State Warriors, like women's basketball or something. We had all these 3-point shooters and athletic wings, and they played our game. They outplayed our game against us. Our threes wouldn't fall. Everything they put up was dropping. They were just like shooting the nets. I mean, you playing, hey, it's a Saturday in Kentucky. If you guys don't know anything about Kentucky's basketball crazy. The bluegrass state, right? And it's not just the University of Kentucky fans. If it's basketball, period. If they're in a gym in February and it's a basketball, people are going nuts. They will pack out the house. It don't matter if it's 5 and 4-year-old YMCA ball, UK, Louisville, Murray State. Hey man, shout out to Ja Morant. I hope he goes second in the NBA draft. I can't wait to see that dude in the league. But yo man, Kentucky is basketball crazy. They went, but man, when this dude caught that pass, I was like, what is Brian doing? What in the hell is Britt doing? Like, well, actually, I was glad because, I mean, they were killing us and they ripped my homeboy. But, man, when this kid caught that dunk, when he caught that alley-oop, I wanted to leave. Like this is because I'm on a tangent, but I'm going to bring this back around to Star Wars and the Rise of Skywalker, right? So whenever there weren't a lot of good places to eat in Danville, Kentucky, back in that time where Center College is. Now, I mean, you know, like I don't know too many people to know about Center, but I never know who's listening. Maybe one of my friends listens. Shout out to my friend Griffin. She's a alum of Center College. I don't know. I'm older than Griffin, so maybe by the time Griffin got to Griffin, if you listening, I'm gonna use your realness. So maybe by the time Elizabeth, love you, Elizabeth. Maybe by the time Elizabeth got to Center, they had some good places to eat. But they didn't have much there. There was like an all-you-can-eat buffet steakhouse, and there was a Fazoli's. If you played good in Center, we went to the buffet, and they might have let us have a steak. They're like, okay, everybody can have a steak, and you can get the buffet. You get one steak and you get the buffet. But if we lost, guess where we were eating? If we lost, we were going to Fazoli's. When that dude caught that dunk, when he caught that, I don't even know how he caught it and then completed it. I'm like, he caught the ball from like behind the backboard and then went under the backboard, under the rim, and then reverse dunked it. Like, I was like, how in the world? Like, I will never see anything like this again. When he caught that dunk and did that, I was like, oh, man, we going to Fazoli's. I was like, man, we eat at Fazoli's, man. That's it. I mean, it's bad enough the boys and the girls lost. We both got blown out in the second half. We eating at the gym was rocking, man. The gym exploded. That, like, just killed the morale killed the morale for everybody, right? Man, he had the freaking Iron Man booster boots on. So I don't know how he did it. That was one of the most amazing dunks I've ever seen with my own eyes in my life. Like, I think the only other dunk where I was like, wow, how did he do that? It was a kid playing pickup ball, and everybody was laughing at him because he came in like he had on his shirt and it was like too big. And one sleeve was like ripped off. He had these goofy looking glasses on. Man, he looked like Spider-Man in the new Spider-Man movie in that black suit. I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of dude's skin color or anything, but he was real dark and just lanky. He was about 5'10". And man, he just rose up on somebody. Like, he rose up. They both jumped together. And this guy was bigger than him. And then that dude like hit a rocket booster or something and like went up another 6 inches. Like he went up and it's like he paused and then he like double jumped like something off a video game and just boom dunked on the dude, right? And then they team lost and then my team had next. Yeah, he had on some James Worthy glasses. My team had next and guess who had to guard him? I had to guard him. He was guarding me and like my team lost. And the bad thing is we would have won. Like we came back on them. I started hitting threes but I was so afraid of getting dunked on that cuz like he went backdoor one time and it was like this white kid on his team that was like trying to be Allen Iverson. Like he had his hair braided and everything. He had on Allen Iverson shoes. He had on the baggy shorts. And man, him and that little white dude, the White Iverson, white chocolate, man, they was like lobbing. He was the little point guard dude was like throwing them lobs. He was on backdoor just dunking on people. He got that dunk when he like paused in the air, and I'm like, man, I don't want to get dunked on. But once I mean, he got a dunk. It wasn't on me, but he like got a breakaway dunk. I missed a three. It was a long rebound. He ran down there and dunked it, and I tried to chase him down, but I wasn't jumping with that kid. After that, it was like, all right, he got his dunk in. Okay, now I can play. After that, I just started balling out, and we ended up losing just because that's what happens when you play scared. But my point is, right, something can start out, and you don't know how it's going to go, and then you might see something amazing, right? Rian Johnson is had the difficulties of where do I go after The Force Awakens? Rey standing there handing Luke this lightsaber. What is he going to do? What happens there on Ahch-To? Where do we go? Snoke and Kylo Ren just got beat by Rey. What's going to happen there? Right? Hux had to drag Kylo Ren back to Snoke. He's cut open and shot up by the Chewbacca's bowcaster, and he's killed Han Solo. And he thought he was gonna like become more powerful, but it like messed up his conscience and messed up his connection to the Force. What happens there? There's so many questions that JJ left Ryan to have to answer. And we got to think about that. Ryan had this hard, and this is the middle movie. So I've got to like progress this story, but I've got to leave it in this really weird place where whoever comes after me can take all of the streams and the strands and wrap it up, right? So, it was a really tough situation, and it's like that rip, right? Brit ripped. That was Rusty, I think, that got ripped. He ripped him and he just lobbed it. And maybe they'd done that play a million times in practice, but we had never seen it. It might have been all arranged, prearranged, set up, right? Because JJ was executive producer of The Last Jedi. So yeah, Rian Johnson wrote The Last Jedi, the initial script, and he was watching the dailies from The Force Awakens. JJ changed a whole lot of stuff, and Ryan had to go back after when The Force Awakens came at the premiere, right? It came out. That was a story. That was one of the first stories I ran on the channel. It was like Rian Johnson's rewriting the script to The Last Jedi. Oh man, episode 8's in trouble. That's what episode 8's in trouble because Rian Johnson's rewriting the script, and it was, well, the version I saw from the dailies, things got changed in the final version. People have these questions now. Essentially, the movie that came out was a different movie had different things happen than the script that I initially wrote, right? So we had to do that, right? Things that JJ called an audible, and Ryan I've already started working on this, and I've already got a completed manuscript, right? So I got to go back and make some changes. I don't think that Rian Johnson wrote and did everything with The Last Jedi in a vacuum. JJ was aware of stuff that was going on. He might have said, hey man, I would have done this differently. Oh man, see, he would have done it differently. What did I say? We're not persuaded by anything. Things that already support what we feel, what we believe, the truth from our point of view as we see it, right? We see it in that way. It's confirmation bias, right? Just because JJ said, I would have done this differently, that doesn't make it bad. It just means he would have done it differently, right? That's not me defending. I'm just trying to lay it out there, right? But now it's up to JJ to catch that lob, and now he's got to bring it home. Where does this go? right? Ryan Johnson was like, well, if I had used the Knights of Ren in my movie, I would have killed them, right? So it's good that the Knights of Ren are not part of the First Order. They're not part of what Snoke is doing, because that's what I thought. I thought that, you know, the religious or at the mystical arm of the First Order was Kylo Ren, Snoke, the Knights of Ren, and maybe some other Force users. It's good that it's not. The mystical arm of the First Order is Snoke and Kylo Ren. That's it, right? You are the new Vader, right? Essentially, Snoke is like doing his own rule of two, right? Master and apprentice, ruling the galaxy together, right? We are the center of power, right? I'm the wise, enlightened leader. You're my force, my great intimidator, right? Because that's how he viewed Sidious and Vader, right? Kylo Ren was like, I'm not gonna let that ride, right? I should be the man, and if I want to be the man, well, I got to beat the man. And the first chance he got, he took it, right? That's how he responded to his defeat, right? Hey, I'm tired of being your whipping boy, man. You done talk bad to me and shocked me and everything else, humiliated me. Hux is laughing at me, but now I'm the supreme leader, and I'm gonna choke the crap out of Hux every chance I get and humiliate him because he had time to gloat about Rey kicking my butt, right? But like I said, we have learned that, and it's good that JJ is having his chance, because he said, yo, man, the Knights of Ren are there's deep, man. I would do an entire movie about the Knights of Ren, and who knows, maybe we'll get a story about the Knights of Ren, right? My man Manny posted this on Facebook about there could be a possible connection between the Knights of Ren and the Mandalorians, and he showed a picture of Dryden Voss. I said this probably an hour ago earlier in the podcast, that, yo, man, one of them carries some kind of pike or something. That's a weapon, right? A halberd or something. And it looks like we've seen a similar weapon, or it could be the same weapon from Dryden Voss's collection. Now, I've always felt like the Mandalorian may have ties to the Sith. The Sith wear these helmets. The Mandalorians wear helmets that are supposed to be in armor that's supposed to be lightsaber resistant. Maybe the Mandalorians have had a connection to the Sith, and going back to the Old Republic, when you look at Star Wars Old Republic, the Mandalorians they do, right? The Sith reached out to the Mandalorians to use them as, hey, you guys don't like the Jedi, you don't like the Republic. They're always messing with you, and y'all got beef, and y'all are this warrior culture looking for the biggest challenges. Well, how about this? How about you join what we're doing? Or they just got manipulated, because that's what the Sith do. And there could be a connection between the Mandalorians and the dark side. Maybe that's the reason that the Mandalorians don't like the Force. There's a story there. There's a story to be told, right? And we could get that in this Old Republic thing. I think that the Mandalorian, the series, could set up a whole lot of stuff, right? I think that there's going to be connections between the Mandalorian culture and the Knights of Ren. I've always felt that, right? And the Sith and the dark side. I think there's a big story there. That there's it's not a coincidence that all of these things have something in common. The mask of Darth Momin looks kind of like one of the masks that one of the Knights of Ren wears, and then a lot of them look like mirror Mandalorian helmets. And why do a lot of them wear these helmets? Is it just, is it just that, oh, well, a lot of people wear helmets. Phasma wore some kind of war helmet. What's the little girl from Solo? The little girl, I forgot her name, right? She had some kind of ceremonial helmet, but it kind of looked like something one of the members of the Knights of Ren wears. It's like Thrawn says, if you look at art, you can tell a lot about a culture by the art, right? If you look at the Mandalorians and I'm trying to say Enfys Nest, right? Yeah, Enfys Nest. You look at her helmet and you look at some of the Knights of Ren, right? There's some similarities there. What is it just a coincidence? Oh, well, they all just wear helmets. Are there artistic influences? What does this mean? I really feel like there's a connection with all of them. Not to say Enfys Nest is one of her descendants, becomes a Knight of Ren, but you never know. You never know. Maybe she became disillusioned with the New Republic if she's still around, or somebody who was part of her crew, you know, during the rebellion, however things turned out for her. Maybe they had an affinity to the dark side. We don't know. But I feel like there's going to be Easter eggs in The Rise of Skywalker, The Mandalorians, and Star Wars Resistance. And I'm going to leave on this note. There's a new Force user. There's a book coming out. It's part of the path or the road to the Rise of Skywalker. There's a new Force user, a young Force user, someone, I think a boy around the same age as Rey. He knows he's Force sensitive, and he's trying to go out and learn about the Force on his own. Why are we not getting this book until November, and the movie comes out in a month, almost a month and some change after the book comes out, the movie's out? Because there's probably something that's going to connect to the Rise of Skywalker. Maybe this kid could be involved in uncovering whatever's going on with Palpatine. Maybe this kid steps in Act 3. Maybe this kid has something to do with a possible 6 movie thing going on between Rian Johnson and Dave and Dan, the Benioff and Weiss thing, because that's the word on the street right now, is that Rian Johnson's trilogy and Dave and Dan's trilogies, those are all going to be part of one big story, right? Are they going with the Marvel thing? I don't know. I really don't know, but it would be interesting to see a story told from different points of view, a big story that's being broken up and told from different points of view, different perspectives. That would be something interesting. I don't know how it would work, but yeah, that's where I was going with that. This new kid could be the vessel that Palpatine uses to reemerge and come back and threaten everything that the First Order is built up and that the Resistance is trying to fight, right? There's a greater evil out there, essentially. And if they're fighting a greater evil, then what happens with the First Order? What happens with the Resistance? Does this conflict get wrapped up, right? If Kylo Ren has to do the Anakin thing and sacrifice himself in order to put down the greater evil, well, we saw what happened. There was a huge fallout, right? Even though Sidious died and Vader is gone and Anakin's been redeemed and the Death Star is gone, there were still, fleets out there, and they fought for another year, and then the Empire retreated into the unknown regions, and they reemerged 30 years later as the First Order, right? So the war never really ended. You had a period of what you thought was peace, but there were still conflicts going on. You got to rebuild, and you got to decide who you want to be. And then you've got, people, the other conflicts that never got squashed. It was like, all right, everybody was focused on the Empire, but what about this thing happening on my home world? There's still issues with that, right? Leia killing Jabba the Hutt, that left a vacuum, right? The Hutt cartel falls. Who fills in the void there? What's up with all the gambling and the crime syndicates, and everybody's left to run wild and willy-nilly, right? So you got issues going on there, right? So there's so many questions that are left open going into this movie, and there's going to be more questions that are left open at the end of episode 9, and that's it's an interesting place. And then if we're talking about the Old Republic, well, how do you do that? Yeah, you can tell Star Wars and not have it connected to the Skywalker saga, but at the end of the day, they're all connected in some kind of way, and I think the best way to sell this, because you've got to be able to sell it to the casual Star Wars person that's just going, this is Star Wars, that's a name that I know, but I don't care about any of this stuff. I want to go and eat popcorn and see a good movie and walk away and go back to my life. That's how these movies really make money, right? Why is Endgame killing the box office, killing it in China, killing it domestically? Because it's a whole lot of people who, hey man, I know Marvel is going to deliver. I'm going to see this Marvel movie, eat some popcorn, and enjoy myself. Because I talked to a whole lot of teenagers this last month, and the last 2 months actually, and they they didn't go the first night. They didn't go the first weekend. They didn't go the first week because teenagers. Some of them on allowances. I don't get my allowance, or I don't get paid for my job until next week, 2 weeks from now, and my dad's not gonna give me the money to go see it, whatever, right? And those are the kids that are talking about it. Those are the kids that's talking in game nonstop, right? So that's how Star Wars has to like kill it in the box office, stay relevant. You got to make something. Yeah, you can do stuff for the hardcore fans, but what did I say? I was like, yo, man, if you want to do something for the hardcore fans, put it on the streaming service, put it on Disney Plus, and see how it does. And if it's like, yo, this character is crazy popular. What's up, Andre from Bosnia Herzegovina? I got a friend that just left here and moved back over there. She moved over here years ago, became a personal trainer in Orlando, boxed, moved here to Tennessee, opened a gym here, was very successful with her boyfriend. They split up. Her gym got even more successful after she broke up with her boyfriend. She went back home and met her third grade boyfriend. They fell in love, and now she sold her gym. She's back there, and they got a baby together. It's a beautiful story, right? But so that's pretty cool, man. So yeah, shout out to Bosnia Herzegovina. We got people from all over the place, popping all up out the woodworks. Let's go back to Manny's question before I'm gonna wrap this up then. So yes, do you think we'll find out more about Darth Wren in episode 9, or will he appear in the Old Republic series or a novel? So this question about Darth Wren, actually there isn't a Darth Wren. I thought that there was a Darth Wren in after, and I talked about Darth Rend. It's W-R-E-N-D, Darth Rend, right? So Darth Rend, I did a video on him. I think the video is called like the Sith Lord who came back, right? So Darth Rend, there was a prophecy about a Sith Lord who comes back from death. And how Qui-Gon Jinn interpreted it is he said there was a Darth Rend, W-R-E-N-D, not R-E-N, Ren, Darth Rend, who the Jedi believed that he was dead, right? And they believed he was dead, and then he reemerged later and led forces against the Jedi. So I think that this was during probably the time of the Jedi Crusade, right? The Jedi and all the stuff, like the Jedi Crusade relates to the Scourge of Malachor. That's the temple, the Sith temple on Malachor, where Ezra, Ahsoka, and Kanan went, in the season 2 finale of Star Wars Rebels. Darth Maul had gone there with Palpatine when he was a little kid, right? So I don't think Rend literally came back from death. We don't really know. It was just that he was believed to be dead, and he returned, with forces to fight to go to war with the Jedi. Now the thing about these prophecies, and this is what Qui-Gon later said, was these prophecies are basically timeless, right? They can always be reinterpreted, right? It's like people. There can always be a chosen one of every generation. Now, if we talk specifically about the prophecy of Mortis, that was Anakin. George Lucas confirmed that. And there was stuff, Qui-Gon was like, there was more to the Jedi prophecies. I don't know. I saw Alex do a video on it, but I didn't watch it. Because it was like, well, I'm like reading the book, so it's not really a reason for me to watch the video about a book I'm reading, right? Unless he's got some information that he got from somewhere else. But it was like stuff about like the Kyber that's not Kyber. When the Kyber that's not Kyber, the time of the prophecies is at hand, or the time of the chosen one is near. Something like that. And so they found this crystal. There were these scavengers, con people, who thought they found like a vein of Kyber crystal on this planet, where all of this stuff going on with Rael Avaros and the big conflict dealing with the Republic in this planet, and Zerka Corporation. Zerka is also something I first heard about Zerka from Knights of the Old Republic, so Zerka's canon now, right? And evil corporation. So there's this big conflict with the Jedi, the Republic, Zerka Corporation, and this planet. And Rael Avaros is there as like an advisor. He's like basically the ruler of this planet. He's the spokesperson for this princess until she grows up and is able to become queen. And she's friends with Leia's mother, who's a girl at that time, right? With Breha Organa. Yeah. The House Organa. She's friends with Breha, right? So I mean, it's like, wow, this is connecting everything, and then you get the prophecy about, you know, the daughter of darkness giving birth to darkness, right? Is that Leia, the daughter of darkness, or the daughter born in the darkness, right? Darth Vader's daughter, and then she gives birth to more darkness. Is that Kylo Ren? Like, what is this, right? These prophecies are timeless, right? So, you know, you mentioned Darth Ren, and yeah, I mean, I'm listening to this in the audio book, and I had the actual ebook on my Kindle too. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? I almost had a wreck because I'm listening to this driving. Like, what? Wait, what? Darth Ren? I gotta look this up, man. And then it was Rend, W-R-E-N-D. But what's more interesting? There's the Sith Lord who comes back from death or apparent death. Could that be Palpatine, right? Could Palpatine be the one who comes back? They thought he was dead. There was some kind of way he came back, right? The same way Lord Momin is supposed to be dead, but his consciousness is preserved in his helmet. His body is gone. His physical body's gone. It's crossed over into the nether regions, but his consciousness is preserved in his helmet some kind of way, right? Because Sith won't let go. They won't cross over to the other side. And when I started out, if you guys, if you're watching the replay, you caught where I started out. If you're on the live, you got to go back or wait till I upload the audio to the podcast version. I mentioned my friend Costa and how he inspired all of this, and he'd written these books, right? And in one of his books, he talked about like the keris, right? This is a ceremonial knife, ceremonial sword in Indonesian traditions, Indonesian martial arts, in Pencak Silat, right? And this keris, this sword, this family sword is passed down, and what they believe is the person who initially, the first person to own that sword, they a part of their consciousness possesses that sword, right? So that's the reason it's so honored. They pass it down because this is literally a part of your ancestor. If you have to fight with this, the keris will protect you, right? It's possessed, right? Or the person who makes the keris, the sword, it might be the person, the blacksmith, they might imbue this with some of their spiritual energy. They believe this. Now I've seen, there's a YouTube video where there's some freaky, wild stuff going on with the keris, where Costa's teacher is like talking to the keris, and it starts moving like around the table, like a Ouija board, except ain't nobody holding it. It's like you on the Ouija board and the thing starts moving and spelling stuff by itself. Costa said he witnessed this. He put it in his book, and then it's on YouTube. Like, this is an old video, probably recorded in the 90s or early 2000s, of his teacher, like, using his energy to communicate with the keris, and the energy in the keris is, Chris knife, well, I mean, a lot of stuff from the Dune saga comes from real life stuff, right? But it moves, and he's like, well, I'm talking to the spiritual energy that was left in it, that was left in it, right? So that's something that's there, a real life example. At least, you know, some people believe it, whether they do or not. It's in that tradition, in this martial art tradition in Indonesia, the martial tradition where things are blurred between the physical combat and the spiritual, mystical side, which I said that's Star Wars. When you start talking about the Force, that's there, right? So there's this idea, and maybe the Sith do that. They never let go. They will not let go of the physical, because what George Lucas said is, for the Sith, enlightenment is all about it's all rooted in physicality, becoming immortal, physically immortal, not a Force ghost, becoming one with the Force. that attachment to the corporal body, to the physical plane, is what stops them. It's why they can't cross over and become Force ghosts. They possess things they can't let go. And what was Moment obsessed with? I got to get somebody to open this portal for me to reach into the nether regions and bring my body back, right? To bring my body here so that I can have a body again and be in the here and now, right? With blood flowing through my veins again, right? That's what he wanted to do. Maybe that's what Palpatine is trying to do. Hey man, he knows about the world between worlds. What do powerful people want to do? They want to become more powerful. And so this new kid that's on the scene, we don't know much about him. Maybe he gets lured into that, roped into that. We don't know. But I think it's interesting that we're not going to learn anything about him until right before the movie comes out. Or he could be connected to future stories he might not appear in episode 9. It might be the next story coming. We don't know, but we're just going to have to wait till November 12th when that book comes out. Find out what happens. So that's we're coming up. We're past the 2-hour mark. That's all I got to say for this one, man. It's been fun hanging out with y'all. If you're listening to this in your car, I hope you found this entertaining. We're going to try to do these on Sunday afternoons moving forward. Star Wars Off the Dome show. So I talked about shout out again to the guys who are finishing up the Hammer of Thor training program this week, the guys who are already finished. So Eric, Elemen, Rodney Brown, nice work. I'm going to be in touch with you guys very soon. Michael, Theo, y'all are on your last week, and then Hassan is starting phase 3, the final phase. Like I said, they signed up for 6 weeks and ended up getting 12 weeks of training. I hope they all got stronger, more mobile. That's awesome. And a lot of people were interested in the Hammer of Thor. They're like, I don't have kettlebells, or I don't know kettlebells. I can't do it, Prince. Sorry. And that's why these are the first guys to go through the Hammer of Thor training program, and they're the last. I'm not going to do that anymore. They helped me start my coaching thing. But now I want to coach. And being a coach means I take the tools that you have and we improve them. I try to make you better at your goals, right? So if you guys are interested in the whole, like I said, becoming a urban acolyte, a real life Jedi, is just using this stuff to inspire yourself. Your picture of what a Jedi is might not necessarily be my picture of what a Jedi is in the real world. I just want to help you along the process. So if you want to sit down and you want to talk to me about that, I'm gonna set up where we do it on a call, just like this, but it's just me and you. For now, just shoot me an